All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are breaking down a book that, for decades, has been both super influential and, let's be honest, pretty controversial. We're talking about David Deida's 1997 classic, The Way of the Superior Man.
So, right from the get-go, the book tackles this massive question, one that a lot of us can probably relate to. It basically asks, hey, in this modern world where we're striving for equality, why does it feel like the passion, that real, raw spark, is just fizzling out in so many relationships? That's the big problem Deida is trying to figure out.
So to really get his solution, first we have to dig into the problem he's seeing. He calls it the modern relationship dilemma, and he argues that it's actually a pretty new issue, something that's come about because of how we've changed the way we connect with each other.
Okay, so Deida breaks down the history of relationships into these two big stages. First, you got stage one. This is, the classic old school model. The macho, dominant guy and the submissive woman at home. Deida says this was really rigid, often even manipulative. But then, things evolved into stage two. This was the big push for a 50-50 partnership. Men started getting in touch with their sensitive side, and women stepped into their power, becoming more independent and career-focused.
But here's the big but in Deida's argument. He says that while stage two was absolutely essential for society and equality, no question about that, it had this unexpected consequence. By becoming more alike, partners started to create what he calls sexual neutrality. And that, he claims, is why the passion dies down. The energetic gap between them just wasn't there anymore.
Okay, so if sexual neutrality is the problem, what's the fix? Well, this leads us straight into the heart of Deida's whole philosophy, his theory of sexual polarity.
Think of it like a magnet. For there to be any pole, you need a north pole and a south pole, right? Deida says sexual attraction works the exact same way. He calls this sexual polarity. It's that powerful force, that spark that flies between a masculine and a feminine pole. He argues that if you don't have that strong difference, that polarity, you might have a wonderful roommate, a great friend, but that intense, passionate fire, it's gone.
Now, and this is a really important point, Deida isn't talking about men and women in a rigid way. He's talking about sexual essences that anyone can have. So the masculine essence, its core priority is mission, purpose, the drive for freedom and direction. Then you have the feminine essence. Its core priority is the flow of love. It's all about connection, radiance, and that vibrant life force.
So you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. I feel like I'm a bit of both. And Deida totally gets that. He says everyone has both energies, but, and this is a big but, he claims that for about 90% of us, our deep core essence leans one way or the other. It's either primarily masculine or primarily feminine. Only about 10% of people are truly balanced. And his whole point is that for the other 90%, trying to be a perfect 50-50 mix is exactly what's snuffing out the passion.
All right, so let's focus on the masculine core first. For anyone who identifies with that essence, Deida says there's one thing that is more important than anything else: purpose.
And here it is. This is probably the most famous and maybe the most challenging quote in the entire book. Your purpose must come before your relationship. Deida is crystal clear on this. For a person with a masculine core, their mission in life, their purpose, has to come first. And here's the wild part. He argues that if you put the relationship first instead, you don't just weaken yourself, you actually end up damaging the relationship you were trying to protect.
So why is this so important? Well, according to Deida, a man who isn't connected to his purpose is basically adrift. He feels empty, lost, and that creates this weak, kind of wishy-washy presence. His partner can feel it, he's just not fully there, He's not anchored to his own truth, and that lack of solid direction, Deida says, makes him feel untrustworthy to the feminine. And he's clear that purpose isn't some single thing you find and then you're done. No, he sees it as a cycle. First, you live your current purpose all the way out. You give it everything. Then, when it's complete, you have to be brave enough to let it go and step into the unknown, a period of not knowing. And you wait there until the next, deeper mission starts to form. And when that impulse hits, you act immediately. It's this constant evolution.
Okay, so we've got the masculine core anchored in its purpose. What's next? Well, the book then pivots to how this masculine energy should understand and relate to its polar opposite, the feminine essence.
This quote really cuts to the chase of how Deida sees communication differently between the two poles. For the masculine, words are concrete. What you say is your bond. But for the feminine, words are an expression of feeling. What she says is a snapshot of her emotional truth in that moment. And as Deida points out, that truth can change, kind of like the weather.
All right, and based on that idea, the book gives some very direct and, let's be real, often pretty debated advice. Things like, praise her because the feminine blossoms with praise. Don't even try to logically figure out her moods, just treat them like changing weather patterns. Understand her words are about feeling, not necessarily hard facts. And maybe the biggest one, stop trying to fix her emotions with logic. The book's answer is that your steady presence and love are way more powerful than any discussion.
And this might be one of the most provocative ideas in the whole book. Deida suggests that when the feminine complains, it's not actually a criticism. He calls it a test. It's not about the things she's complaining about. It's a test of the masculine strength and presence. Can you stay calm, centered, and loving even when she brings the storm? If you can pass that test, he says, she feels safe and can relax into her trust for you.
So when you combine all of this, the purpose, the polarity, this whole different way of understanding each other, what do you get? Well, you get the book's ultimate ideal, the way of the superior man.
And the goal here isn't to become some kind of stereotypical tough guy. Not at all. It's about bringing two things together, heart and spine. The spine is your purpose, your direction, your truth. The heart is your love, your openness, your ability to feel. The whole point is to have both.
And this quote from Deida just nails it. He says it's time to move past the macho jerk, all spine, no heart. And it's also time to move past the sensitive wimp, all heart but no spine. The superior man he talks about is this third way. He's a new stage of evolution, someone who has both that unshakable direction and a wide-open heart. He can stay on his mission while being completely present with love.
And there it is, the book itself. You know, it was first published way back in 1997, but you can see why its ideas are still being talked about and argued about so intensely today.
Which brings us to the big, lingering question that really surrounds this whole book. Is it a timeless guide to understanding the powerful dynamics of masculine and feminine energy? Or is it just an outdated model that tries to put us back into old-fashioned gender boxes? That's the real debate, and that's the question we'll leave you to think about.